Many people would agree that education is one of the most important factors in developing society for the better. Well, with that in mind, let's talk about my country, Kazakhstan, as an example. Far from being the country that the movie Borat describes, where you can see him portraying us as people who ride horses or defecate in the bushes, Kazakhstan is a country that has a 99.8% literacy rate for both genders and an educational system where the young have to complete 9 years of school. And Kazakhstan is a diverse and beautiful country that is, according to certain economic data, prospering. And the same thing could be said about many other emerging economies around the world. However, Kazakhstan and those many other economies are held back because great improvements in our educational systems are not resulting in us building a happier and more equal society. And I believe that women are the ones that are particularly left behind. But why is this the case? Well, it sure isn't because women are not great students. In Kazakhstan, 8 out of 11 students who received perfect scores on standardized testings last year were women. And indeed, anywhere you look, women are regularly seen as studying harder than men. The latest statistics by the University and Colleges Admission Service in the United Kingdom revealed that women represent 55% of university graduates and are also 33% more likely to start a degree than their male counterparts. Why then, women in Kazakhstan and many other countries are still lagging so far behind men when it comes to finding quality jobs? Although I think education is undoubtedly a very powerful force that is here to stay for good, there are unfortunately 2 equally powerful forces in our society that hold us back from the potential that education offers us. The first force that makes women take education for granted is the media, all the commercials, the advertisements that we see on a daily basis. While the other one relates to the cultural stereotypes that condition what a woman should be, how she should look, and how she should act. Now, imagine this. You just came back from a very successful vacation and everything was great. But when you try to put on your favorite pair of jeans, you realize you can't zip them. And you immediately start stressing out and thinking of ways to lose weight faster. And I'm sure every one of you had that feeling one day or another, and I'm not different, but the first time I experienced this was when I was just 10 years old. So, whether it was people laughing at me at school for, eating pizza faster than anyone in my grade, or looking at models on Instagram and thinking, wow, I wish I could be like them, but realizing or thinking at that time that I can't, I as a 10-year-old determined to lose weight. And before I even reached my teenage years, I had been sitting on multiple diets, and I even resorted to throwing up after my meal so I can get rid of every single calorie I could manage. And so by the age of 13, I looked like this. Quite a difference, isn't it? Sure, I was a lot slimmer, but I certainly wasn't happier or happy at all in this case. And I understand that this is not a new phenomenon, but we shouldn't be feeling that way at such an early age. In today's world where the majority of advertisements are not only provocative and sexualized, but are also directly focused to point out our weaknesses, women are hypnotized into thinking that we are judged by how we look rather than by how smart we are. And I mean, just think about this. The advertisements lures us with the typical promises of, fast and simple and easy. Look at these. Beautiful eyes for you easily with a Maybelline. No hair in one application. All you have to do to lose weight is drink this. And with this brush, get an instant illusion of false eyelashes and many others. Have you ever heard of these? Well, if the reward is easy to get, we do these pleasurable tricks over and over again until they'll form a pile of obligations, or what we think are obligations, that women spend time, money, and effort on. And the saddest thing is that we are continually looking for that sense of satisfaction. Why? Well, because today, even with the most sophisticated forms of advertisements, They are leading women like me to seek education through internet and through influencers, through highly customized and paid ads on Google, tap into our greatest insecurities. Given my own personal challenges, I ended up looking up articles online asking the question, should I skip school because I'm fat? And believe me when I say this, as soon as I typed that question in my search box, the weight loss advertisements never seem to leave me. You see, the addiction that these advertisements create makes girls my age spend more time on fixing their hair or doing their makeup instead of studying for a test without them even acknowledging it. Why? Well, because in the end, everyone will be complimenting their hair and not the fact that they passed their math test. And in the end, the most popular girl at school is probably the prettiest one and not the smartest one. But women's struggle to achieve our potential doesn't only need to face up to that modern force of advertising. We also need to face up to something that has been holding us back for many centuries and continues to do so, especially in a traditional society like mine. But before I get to it, let me take you back to that picture of me as a 10-year-old. So, I'm sure every one of you has been asked this question many times when you were little. Who do you want to become when you grow up? As if our 10-year-old selves even had an inkling of what the real world was. But believe it or not, I did. And I wanted to become the president of Kazakhstan. So our teacher assigns us to talk about our future dream jobs. And I come to school eager to share my idea. And so here I am talking about rebuilding our country, which at that time I thought that was so simple and obvious because freedom and equality are so easy to achieve. But instead, I distinctly remember her laughing at me because she told me that was a pipe dream. And she told me to stop dreaming. Stop dreaming because I was a girl that was growing up in Kazakhstan. And although that day the idea of President Sadykova died, although I couldn't understand why me being a girl matters when it comes to politics and presidency. But I guess I am a little wiser and older now, and I do realize what she was getting at. In the end, a woman in Kazakhstan is supposed to get married by the age of 25 and have 3 or more children. And the saddest thing is that that's not only happening in Kazakhstan. Women are pressured into early marriages. They're expected to stay at home. They are banned from many works in the Middle East, in Asia, in Europe, everywhere in the world. And that is why women are still less likely to be associated with leadership positions, because we are not allowed to utilize all of our skills and our potential. If society doesn't want us to hold a leadership position, why do we have to try and become someone who we're not going to be socially accepted? You should hear my family constantly nagging me when I say that I am not planning to have children, or at least when I'm not 25. But should that make me less of a Kazakh? Does that make me less of a Kazakh? Traditions are static, but it's really time we change them. Generation Z should not be the ones carrying the burden of losing our traditions, but instead we should be the ones modernizing our traditions. Traditions that don't really make sense, that aren't necessarily key factors when describing a nation, should and can be changed. Now, see, it's no wonder women have a hard time achieving their potential when we are taught such stereotypes that not only take up our time, but they affect our well-being and divert us from who we really are and what really matters to us. We have to fight the culture that looks at our bodies first and then listens to what we have to say. We have to fight the culture that expects a certain behavior from us before examining what we're capable of. But how do we do this? I believe we should encourage critical thinking in our educational systems. And I understand there are a lot of classes that require critical thinking, but there aren't a lot of classes that emphasize critical thinking. At the age of 10, my academic upbringing taught me how to read William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, but the only thing I was ever asked to do was to answer simple questions. You see, we have to learn that there isn't a certain answer to every single question. We have to develop the ability to analyze so that we can think critically, to compare, to create. If we are not going to learn how to build our opinion around certain things, then this is going to keep happening all the time. Now, we have to learn how to think critically and use these critical thinking techniques not only in how we consume a play, but how we relate to the contemporary world and all the commercial influences vying for our attention. So what if we were to flip the roles of women? If X causes Y, what is going to happen if Y causes X? What if instead of society creating social norms for ourselves, why don't we women create social norms for ourselves? But to do that, we have to learn, we have to be educated. If we are going to be educated producers, we are going to be the ones creating social norms for ourselves. Thank you.